Hi, I'm Bob from Plastic Pipe Shop, and in this video we're going to have a look at using PTFE tape to seal plastic threads. Now, where possible in a plastic pipe system, we want to try and avoid using threaded joints as much as we can. Ideally, we want to use unions instead of threaded joints. The reason for that is people often think, oh well, if I use loads of threads and thread my system together, then if I ever want to take it apart, I can take it apart. It's not quite as straightforward as that. Once you've got one joint which is threaded in and another joint which is threaded in, you can't really undo one joint because the other one is going to tighten more. And so it's often not as straightforward as people think. So we try and use unions or flanges instead if it's a system that we're ever going to want to break apart. But there are times when we do need to use threads, and so I'm going to talk you through here the right way of using PTFE tape. There are other options than PTFE tape. For example, you can get various threads which you can use, or you can use the old-fashioned hemp and paste on it. But really, for plastic pipe systems, most people use PTFE tape, and it's a nice, clean method for plastic systems. First thing we do with the plastic threads are very, very smooth. They've been moulded and they come out of the mould, and they're these lovely smooth threads which do glide in beautifully into fittings. Just for comparison, this is a taper thread on here on the male side, and it's a parallel thread on the female side. So the thread actually goes in quite a long way. Alternatively, on this one we've got a taper thread on the male and a taper thread on the female. So you'll see it only goes in about 4 turns or 5 turns, which is plenty enough. People often think that a threaded fitting has to thread right the way down, but actually if it's threading right the way down to here, then the thread itself isn't gripping at all. What you want is for the thread to tighten before it gets to that point. If it doesn't, then you're not going to have a good seal on it because the threads aren't pulling against each other and tightening on each other. So that's fine for threaded fitting, just to be 4 or 5 turns in. So, as I said, we have nice smooth threads. The problem with that, with PTFE tape, and with any method really, is that the tape just wants to slip nicely around it because it's really nice and smooth. And that happens as well when we're going into the thread. The tape can move. So, a little tip is either use a very fine flat file or use a small piece of emery cloth and just roughen up the threads a little bit around the fitting. Not a lot, just a little bit around the fitting. So using a file, or just use a piece of emery cloth and just roughen them up. If you're using emery cloth for this, make sure after you've done it that you blow off any bits of grip that might have come off your emery cloth. So I'm running my hand around that now, and the thread feels really different. It feels a little bit rough and a little bit coarse, and that's going to help the PTFE tape bind into it even more. So our PTFE tape, we start off with the thread, the male thread, pointing over to our right hand side. This is important, this bit, and I'll show you why later. So this points over to our right hand side. Hold the PTFE tape on with your thumb, start winding it round, wind it over itself, try and keep the tape nice and flat, reasonably tight, hold the tape in your thumb here. I'm just going to go round 4 or 5 times, and then I'm going to pull the PTFE tape off. Okay, and then smooth it down at the end. And then just run your hands around it and just feed it into the thread a little bit. And we then just simply thread this on. We do it hand tight, plus at most about a 1/4 turn, and that will give us a nice seal on it. The reason we have the thread on our right hand side and we start putting the tape on away from us is because if we wound that the other way, when we start winding this on, it's going to want to push against the tape. But our tape's already going that way, which is the same direction that the thread is going. So as we thread on, it actually pulls the tape around with it. If the tape was the other way, so the loose end was coming this way, as soon as we start to thread on, it's going to want to push the tape off. So you always have to make sure that the tape is going on in the same way that that female thread is going to go on. and you'll get a much better seal, and you won't end up with bits of PTFE tape coming off. If you're replacing a joint and you're taking a thread apart, always take the old PTFE tape off and put new PTFE tape on. When it comes off, you can see it's all torn and ripped a little bit, which is what PTFE is supposed to do. Okay, as it threads in, the PTFE tears and rips and gets into the actual threads on the fitting. So there we go. That's how to use PTFE tape to thread two plastic fittings together. Thanks for watching. Bye.